there will be some friends of mine who think he's having a little bit of a midlife crisis. Some people get a sports car or a motorbike. He's gone and got a studio and he does a lot of colouring. I'm Ed Quigley, so I am a visual artist and photographer. I'm self-taught. Anyone that looks at my Instagram will see that it's quite varied, and I suppose I'm making the most of my youth in terms of art to legitimize playing and messing about and having fun. So what I started doing in terms of my art practice was a lot of ink and graphite works, very detailed, very clean. That was in keeping with where my brain was at the time, I suppose. But now predominantly abstract works, and I would say predominantly acrylics, but pastels, oils, I mess about with as much as I can. So I would say bit of an experimenter, yeah. I think art enters most of our lives very early on. It's whether or not we're aware, and then whether we pick up on it. At school, I showed some aptitude for drawing and creativity generally, and I really enjoyed it at school. But I didn't enjoy school. So when I left at 16, I was quite naive, to be honest. That as a 16-year-old, it hit me like a bit of a freight train going into the grown-up world. And I didn't carry on with anything that I enjoyed, which included art, but also drama. I was in the National Youth Theatre and did a bit of acting as a kid, and that never carried on. So I kind of left art behind when I left school. Most recently, it was 2019. My friend Laura, hi Laura, if you watch this, her birthday was in March, and I had a gift for her with some other friends, but I decided, she's a mad Bjork fan, right? So I decided I would try to do a sketch of Bjork, and if it came out great, then fab, and if it was crap, I would just put it in the bin and no one would have known about it and we wouldn't be talking now. And so I did this sketch. I was happy with it, gave it to Laura. She was delighted. She posted a picture of it on Facebook. It got a lot of positive feedback, and I kind of thought, all right, well, I really enjoyed doing that. I love the fact that people enjoyed it, and mostly that Laura liked it. I'll carry on. And then I had the arrogance, the complete arrogance, Will, to think that I could do some artwork that I would try to then sell in a charity art auction. You know, when you bring artwork to a charity art auction, there's a willingness for people to spend money because of the cause as much as the quality of the artwork. So I wasn't walking away from it thinking, here I am, I can sell artwork tomorrow. But what it did, what it did kind of make me feel is that it wasn't a million miles off, that I could just produce artwork and enjoy doing it, and some people will enjoy it, and that was enough. And so I then went off and got my studio where I am now, here at Blue House Yard, and that was it really. I kind of decided that art was going to be a central focus of my life. So Earley is the first artist that springs to mind. He is probably my favorite artist. But it would be a lie if I said to you that I wake up every morning and I'm inspired by Dali to come in here. I rarely think of Dali. I've got one of his books behind me. But what inspires me and what carries me the 6 kilometers to my studio is emotions and feelings. And that might sound a bit woolly, but actually that is at the moment what is really driving me. And I'm a self-taught artist, which means I've got so much to learn that this, where are we now? We're May 2021. I kind of started actively being proficient with art, around this time in 2019. So we're talking 2 years of having some form of art practice. So there's so much I need to learn. And part of that is going to exhibitions, both of emerging artists, but also the classics, Hockney, Dali, Matisse, whatever, and just soaking it all up. But there is a part of me that feels that I've had a second chance at doing something. And that's partly linked to the fact that I was diagnosed with ADHD last year. So when I spoke a few minutes ago in the answer about, what art, when did I first connect with art? Well, I connected with it at school and I did okay, but then I pulled away from it. And I wondered if that's because I'm flaky. It's not, it's because I've got ADHD and I just didn't know. I mean, it's difficult because I look at some of the works I do, particularly with ink and graphite, and there's a lot of simplicity there. There's a lot of detail in some of the pieces, but there's an awful lot of simplicity. And then when I look at the abstract works I do with acrylics, that it's completely different. And I've got a piece to hand that kind of explains or conveys that. So I've got this piece here, which is acrylic with gesso on a gesso board. And if I tilt slightly, the camera hopefully will pick up that it's very, very textured. Now that I've not done anything like that before. And as soon as I did it, I thought, oh my God, I want to do so much more. I want to do a lot more. This I called emotions because it's quite turbulent. There's a strong and varied palette and so on and so forth. But then I will see someone do a line online, and I'll think, oh, I fancy doing that. So I think that I don't think I've got a theme at the moment, in all honesty. I think that I am playing and experimenting. And it was interesting what you just said there about that play coming through. I think someone else said that to me recently, and I think it does come through some of my work, but I think it comes through, I think people spot it in context to what I'm doing and the fact that I'm messing about so much with different styles, and so is playing around a theme? I don't know, but that would be the answer. Society wants to put us in boxes so much, and we really, as a society, and often as individuals, we don't work well, we don't flow well with fluidity. There's a real push to classify us, and it goes back to childhood, it goes back to school, to classify us. I don't know about you, but I remember being at school and I was separated into groups in maths, and you're in that group and all the rest of it. We want to compartmentalize things, and I think that what I'm noticing increasingly with my life is that I don't feel comfortable with that. And that's not me being, I'm not a number. I'm an individual. It's not about that. But it's just when we classify and want to compartmentalize things, what we end up doing is indirectly restricting change and allowing people to change. And I'm 44. I've just moved from quite a serious career and all the rest of it, and now I'm colouring things in. And there will be some friends of mine who think he's having a little bit of a midlife crisis. Some people get a sports car or a motorbike. He's gone and got a studio and he does a lot of colouring in. The unseen every day, and that's a bit, a bit cliched maybe, but a couple kissing is an explicit way of showing affection and love for each other, and it's what would spring to mind. It's probably the first thing that springs to most of our minds if we think about affection and all the rest of it. But a touch on the arm in company at the right time is as much a show of affection as a kiss, but it's very subtle, and it'll be missed by everyone else. And I love that. I love the unseen in the everyday. So I posted a photo recently of my dog. We were on Holloway Road. It was a huge, big puddle, and he was walking through it. And as he was walking through it, I thought, there's something here. So I quickly got my phone out and took a couple of pictures, and then I played about and tilted it upside down. You've got this, I think, really lovely photo of Zach reflected in a puddle. And that's, that is a by the by thing that you'll see, every day and not take any notice of. But there's something in it. So I think, again, I don't want to sound too cliched, but I strongly think that there is art in almost everything. It might require you to distort how you're seeing it. It might require you to view it out of its natural context, but there's art everywhere. And now I've got the legitimacy to stop and stare and take photographs, because I'm not rushing to a meeting. I'm not being the CEO anymore. I'm Ed, who's got a studio in Blue House Yard, and he's got a dog, and he walks around taking stuff out of bins. I'm all right with that. Isn't art wonderful that it can give legitimacy to behaviours that you might not ordinarily show or undertake, And I was on the tube, and there was a woman sat across from me with her friend, and the woman was wearing, I noticed she had a really striking appearance. I don't know if goth would be the right term, but it was a really striking, lots of black, and she had fishnet tights on. And the way she was sat, the fishnet tight, the crease of her knee, it was a very mesmerizing sight, right? So I said, I just said, look, I don't want to appear weird. I'm an artist and a photographer. I'd like to take a photograph simply of your knee and show you, because I think there's something really interesting here. What do you think? And you know, miraculously, she said, okay, you know, go ahead. And so I took a photo and I showed her quickly before I could do much. And I said, look, this is what I see in it. And she went, oh yeah, okay, you know, that's good. And I said, do you mind if I use this image? She said, no. I said, can I take your details to credit you? She said, no, which is fair enough. But she said, use it, no problem. As soon as I saw it that way and thought, that's the British Library. Not the British Library, British Museum. The roof of the British Museum is architecturally quite like that. And so the reason why I showed you that and gone into this is because I would never have done that before had I not had the legitimacy of wanting to capture images for creative purposes. Does anyone, I mean, I'm amazed that anyone can answer that, but I have thought about it, and I would bring something that I have to hand. So I have a series at the moment of acrylic abstract works, which I have titled Discovered. And I'm trying to tilt it so you can see it without the light glare. But essentially, Discovered was a series of works. I'm going to tilt the camera just so we're not looking at my head all the time and more at the artwork. So Discovered is literal because the first in the series was a piece where I had in my mind a background, a layer in the background, which was going to be similar to this, a kind of ephemeral mix of tones and colors. That one was a red palette, so it wasn't multicolored like this. Yeah, just a red palette really. And so I created it and was, you know, and what I had in mind was creating this background, this layer on top of which I would then work with black oil paint, and really create some abstract shapes and stuff. I wasn't thinking of Mondrian, but I've had a few people come back and say there's a bit of Mondrian there. What I had in mind when I started on this, and I would say that this is about 50% complete because it's the first layer, and I need to do a lot more work on the black lines. But what I had in mind was an abstract window scene. That's what I had in mind, and I had these colours. So I don't know if the camera picks it up, but you've got a quite lilac-y, very bluey white, almost a cloudy sky scene. And then around that, I just messed about with colours, right? And I had, I suppose, what I enjoy about this is the juxtaposition of the cleanliness of the lines and the deep black, and then the chaos of the different colours around it. Purely from your promotion on Insta, and then I, you know, visited the website, had a look, and all the rest of it. And look, you know, I'm just going to be honest with you. It just came across as another art fair to me. But what made it stand out is that, and this is my previous work career coming in, you know, due diligence. I went on the Roy's website. I found a few artists, found them on Instagram. I sent them a DM. You've been to Roy's. What's it like? And every one of them, without fail, came back and said, brilliant, really loved it. I can't remember the mix, but some of them talked about, you know, being successful on the days in terms of sales. Others said, I've had so much follow-up in terms of work with clients, but also collaborations. And everyone almost, I'm pretty sure everyone said the Roy's team were fantastic and really helpful, apart from this Will guy who's just awful human being. But apart from him, amazing. So joking aside, I think really your Insta promo worked because it caught my eye. And then I just looked on the website. Everything looked, you know, it looked good. But as I say, it's another art fair. There's plenty out there. And what I did was speak to a few artists, and they were kind enough to reply and say, you know, really good things. So it will be my first art fair in August. And honestly, I'm not just saying this because I'm speaking to you. I cannot wait. I really cannot wait. I've not done one before. I see it as a milestone in my early stage of my early kind of art career. and I'm going there to talk to people.